Hi all. So today we are going to see some of the statistics which is not like a big problem, but we are going to see when we are creating a model, when we are manipulating the data sets, when we try to remove some of the features and all those stuff. So what are all those things like accuracy? What are other things that we can consider to say okay that my model is like predicting correctly and it has more stability, and this cannot be more like it cannot be taught more. Okay, I did my best, and based on some of these statistics which we are going to discuss now, so some of those statistics you can use as a facts and figures to show how stable, how sensitive, what is the precision, what is the recall. So all those statistics which you can show so that the other person can interpret your model. Okay, so we are going to throw some light on those kind of statistics. Okay, so just for telling what are the topics that we are going to cover today is what is bias, what is variance, and then what is a bias variance trade-off, what is hypothesis. Then we are going to see the statistics where we talk about different positive, negative hypothesis, critical regions, and then we are going to see what is standard scalar, correlation, and like some of these are used to filter the features. Like if you have 20 columns or attributes to determine the output of variable, is there a possibility that any of them is unnecessarily there in the dataset? Should we remove some of the columns? Will there be any effect? Okay, and then what is the line equation, and what is the coefficient and intercept, and finally we are going to say what is a p-value Pearson. So all the statistics we are going to filter the columns, we are going to show how good the model is. So these are not complete. Okay, these are some of those facts and figures. So first is what is bias and variance. So if I, okay, let me select this green thing. Okay, so if you can, okay, let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so if you can see there's a red color. Okay, this red color is our solution. How you are getting this graph is like forget it. Okay, for now assume that you have a graph or you have plotted some data set where your solution is this red color. Okay, so I can say red is your solution. Okay, now the dots that you see, right, those are your data points. Okay, I can say based on the input that you have given, these are your predicted values. So I can say that these are y bar. So this symbol we are going to use for the predicted values. So let me tell you what is predicted values. Okay, suppose you have x1, x2, x3 and y. Okay, this is your data set, and this data set we are going to use throughout the concepts to understand what are different facts. Okay, so let's say these are three input. Okay, and based on three you decide your output y. Now based on x1, x2, x3 we have something called y. Now this y is complete thing is our solution, that is red color. Okay, so this thing is our red color. Now the one that we predict like x1, x2, x3, based on this something that we predicted is y bar, and this is y. Okay, so if I say this y is red in color in the graph and this y bar, our predicted thing is let's say blue in color. Okay, so if these things are not clear, just say that red is solution and y is our plotted things. So we try to make sure that our if you can see on the first column. Okay, so this is the first column, this is where our low variance. So with the column name I guess it is clear. Okay, so what is variance is? So variance means how spreaded your data sets is. Okay, so how much across the graph is your data set is present. So okay, yeah, so here you can see all the blue dots are grouped together, like the distance between them is very less. Okay, so in this complete column if you can see, let's focus only on variance first. So in this complete column if you see, the data set is grouped together, but in the second column you can see that a spread of the data points is high. Okay, so that is called as variance. Okay, now whether variance should be high or whether variance should be low, okay, that we'll try to understand after we see what is bias. Okay, so for bias let me take orange. Okay, right. So bias we see first row. Okay, this row is bias. So bias says that the distance between the actual solution and the point that we are focusing on at the moment. Okay, so it is simply like this is our solution. Okay, this is our solution point, but we are here. Okay, this is my predicted thing. So my distance from the solution is this. Now in second case my solution is here, but my predicted thing is here. Okay, let me write here. Okay, my solution is here and my predicted is here. So if I say the arrow is this, like, so here the distance is less compared to the distance here. So I can say that distance between the solution and the one that we have as a data point, that is nothing but bias, that is a predicted one. So what we can say that the more closer we are to the solution, the less bias it is. Okay, and the more spreaded the data is. Okay, so it's not like how much far are you from the solution, but how much spread is your data set is, that is called variance. So the ideal model is the one which is having a low bias, that is very close to the solution, and less variance, that is the spread across, the spread is very less. Okay, so since the spread is less, we can say all are grouped together, and the low bias means it is close to the solution. So if there is a low bias and low variance, we say it is the best possible model. Okay, but again, as soon as you try to decrease variance and bias, your error is getting decreases. Okay, but you try to get more closer, or you try to get more, you try, because see, there is a 100% variance and 100% bias. Now you try to decrease variance, suppose 50%, fine. Bias you try to decrease 50%, fine. Okay, so we'll see that trade-off in the next. But low bias is like closeness to the solution, variance is like how much spreaded the data is. So to decrease the variance, we try to go for a technique called normalization that we'll see in the coming slides. So here we have the bias versus variance. So the graph is bias square. So but this graph is good for understanding. So again, these two images are from Google only. So what we say here is your good model is one where you try to decrease the variance. Okay, and your good model should be also like you should decrease the bias as well. But as soon as you reach this threshold point, okay, so after this point, for suppose that is some threshold point, after this point if you try to decrease your variance or you try to decrease your bias, okay, that will be decreased, but it will lead to increase in the total error. Okay, so if you see this graph, okay, this black line is nothing but our total error. So you can see as soon as the variance or bias is decreasing, error is also decreasing. But if after reaching the threshold, if you try to, okay, so let's focus on the variance. Okay, let me clear this graph. 1 second. Okay, so here what you can see is let me draw this again. Pen ink. Okay, let's consider variance first. So you are here our variance is decreasing. Okay, now variance is decreasing is fine. Okay, now here variance is decreasing is fine, but if you see as soon as you reach your threshold and after that if you try to decrease your variance more, okay, that is this region. So in this region if you can see your error is increasing again. Okay, so it's like there is a variance after which if you try to decrease the variance, your error is going to increase. Similarly, when you focus on, let me take on another color. Okay, similarly when you try to reduce your bias, fine, model is getting good and good, but after reaching this threshold, if you try to decrease your bias more, here again my error is increasing. So you need to see that you decrease your variance and bias, keeping in mind that your error is also decreasing. But if you see that your error is increasing, stop manipulating your variance and bias. Okay, so that was our trade-off between variance and bias. So we need to come to a common point of variance and bias where it is the lowest possible error that we can achieve for a model for prediction. I hope this concept is clear. Okay, and our next topic is hypothesis. So this will now the coming topics are very smaller. So let's say we have two hypotheses. Okay, H0, H1. So we are going in our, okay, so the best possible examples that everyone take is that this is like, okay, for suppose we have two columns x and y, okay, or we can say rain and raincoat. Okay, so we can what we are saying is, suppose we need to prove that when the rain is increasing, the demand for raincoat is also increasing. Let me write. Okay, so this we want to prove. Okay, but we don't have enough evidence to prove that as soon as the rain is increasing, raincoat demand is also increasing. Of course you can prove, this is just an example. So you are not able to prove that when the rain is increasing, raincoat demand is also increasing. What you will do is, you will take the opposite of H naught. So what you will say is, when rain is increasing, raincoat demand is decreasing. That is whatever our null hypothesis. This is null hypothesis, and the second one is alternate hypothesis. This was null hypothesis, this is alternate hypothesis. So we take something opposite to H naught, that is opposite to null hypothesis is our alternate hypothesis. So we try to say that when the rain is increasing, the demand of raincoat is decreasing. So this is what we try to prove in H1. Okay, that is alternate hypothesis, and here we fail to, what I can say is, here we fail to prove that this statement is correct. So indirectly what conclusion we say is, since you were failed to prove H1, which says that H naught is true. Let me repeat this in one statement. Your intention was to say that H naught is correct, but you are not able to do that. So what you will do is, you will consider a statement which is opposite to H naught in H1, and you will fail to prove H1. So failing to prove H1, which is opposite to H naught, means that H naught is true. That is, your null hypothesis is true. So here you are saying that raincoat demand is increasing when rain is increased. So here you proved this statement by failing to prove H1. I hope this concept is clear. So this hypothesis we are going to use further. That's why I was explaining this. So when we go for hypothesis, when we don't have enough evidences to prove our statement. I hope that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So here this is one of the very important concept. Okay, so overall this is going to be used in most of the what we can say formulas, and also just keep in mind that we have two blank lines. Okay, and this blank lines we are going to fill at the end of this explanation, and if you are able to fill that, that means you will get it most of the formulas and what is the intention behind that. Okay, so let's say we have two columns, positive, negative, and two rows, positive, negative. Okay, so if you can see inside it, there is something called true positive, false positive, and all. So for a minute, just forget all the concepts, just try to see how we are getting that. So this first blank, right, here we say whether it is a true or false. Next is the positive or negative. There we say whether it is a positive or whether it is a negative. So what is true or what is false? Okay, so we'll try to see here. If positive is matching, okay, that is something in, okay, we'll try to see what is positive negative in a moment after filling these two blanks, but for now just keep in mind that we are trying to fill these two blanks. Okay, so when positive is matching or negative is matching, we say that it is true. Okay, so if you can see, there is something positive. So okay, what I can say is, this is our data set, or this is our y, and this is our y predicted, just for understanding. Okay, so you can say when our output was y and we predicted is also y, I mean our output was positive and the one that we predicted was also positive, that means our decision was true. Okay, and suppose the output was positive and the decision that we took is negative, that means our decision was not correct. So in that case we go for false. So here we say whether our decision was, okay, my bad, yeah, here we say whether our decision was correct or not. Okay, if decision was true, it is true. If decision is false, then we write false. That is self-explanatory again. Okay, now next is positive or negative. So if it was true and we predicted true, that is it was positive, and we also predicted that it was positive, we say positive irrespective of whether it is correct or not. Okay, forget what is that you have predicted, whether it is a correct or not. What is that you have predicted? Is it positive that you have predicted, then write P. Is it negative that you have predicted, then write N. Okay, so I hope this is making sense, right? So whether your decision was correct or not, based on that you will write true or false, and what is the decision that you took, that you will write positive, negative. So this was for understanding what is true, positive, false, positive and all. But now we'll take an example of diabetes and we'll try to understand. So this is something real. Okay, this is real. Let me try other color. And this is our predicted, PRED. This is our predicted. So when the diabetes was present and we said that it is present, positive means we said it is present. So here how this is treated is that this is H naught is equal to true, this is H naught is equal to false. On here we are accepting. Okay, one second, let me write this properly. Okay, fine. Now what we are saying is our this is H naught is equal to false. Now this complete row, right, we are saying that we accept H naught, and here we are saying we are rejecting H naught. So okay, if this terminology is not fine, let's take an example and then we'll try to understand. So here we are saying disease is present is the literal thing. Okay, this is the reality that COVID is present, and we also predicted that COVID is present. So in that case, what is this? Our decision was true. Okay, the decision which we took was true. And what is the decision that we took? It is positive. Okay, so this is called as true positive. Now next is our patient doesn't have COVID. Okay, so the disease is absent, but what we predicted that the disease is present. So it is like the decision that we took was false. And what is the decision that we take? We took that it is positive. Okay, false positive, true positive. I hope you are getting what that meant. Okay, now wait for 2 more minutes and you will get more clarity on this. Now next is COVID is present, but we said it is not present, so our decision was false. And also what we predicted it as negative. Then similarly COVID is absent, and we also said that patient doesn't have, so the decision we took was correct. And what is the decision we took? It is negative. Okay, so now here is we are focusing on let's focus on the decisions where we were wrong. Okay, so we were wrong at false positive and false negative. Now let's correlate this situation with the literal one. Okay, literal COVID situation. So you said that disease. Okay, so what we say is the most critical thing in here is the COVID was present, and we said it was not present. Okay, so this is the most critical, because even if the patient doesn't have the disease and we say that you have disease, then in that case we took the wrong decision. But in that case the patient will get the treatment, and if we he will get the treatment, that's it. But if the COVID disease is present and if we say that COVID is not present, so in that case what happens? It will be spreading to too many people. So this is the most critical thing. So we have two errors, type 1 error and type 2 error. So type 1 error is also known as critical region. Okay, let me write simply. Okay, let me select this. Okay, so this we also also called as critical region. Type 1 error is critical region and it is false and negative. So here, and we have type 2 error, which is false positive, and this will have some other power of significance or something, because I'm not sure on that. Okay, don't consider that term. So here type 1 error and type 2 errors are the decision that we took wrongly. Okay, a wrong decision, so both are false. Okay, now in this critical region, what is critical region that we are going to okay, so critical region is one of the factor based on which we say how bad our model is. Okay, so first suppose we are trying to uh, develop a model for a sales. Okay, and in the case of sales, if the prediction is like, okay, even if there is a gap of 2 to 3% or 5%, it is manageable, that is fine. Okay, so in that case we say critical region is 5%. So it means that whatever you predicted, it is like 95% is correct, but 5% is wrong. So I can still manage it because 5% it will not affect me much. Okay, so that is fine. So in that case we say critical region is 5%. But in case of some medical some medication, okay, some medicine is coming into market, so in that case, if the cases that it is solving, okay, for suppose, okay, what the example that I can take, okay, so the example that I can take is, suppose any medical machine, okay, any machine which we use for medical treatment, so that should be the most accurate. Okay, so in that machinery, if there is a 1% miss, I can fine, I can manage as a doctor. But if there is more than 1%, like 2% or 3%, then I cannot manage. So my critical region in that case is 1%. So if it is below 1%, it's fine. Okay, but the accuracy, okay, the model is performing is more than 1%, then I cannot manage it. That is, if the model is predicting with 99% accuracy, the medical use case is fine. That is 1% versus a critical region. But if it is performing with 98% accuracy, that is 2%, there is a critical. So this 2% is more than 1%. So if our false, okay, so out of 100, if I am saying 2 inputs I am predicting falsely, that cannot be taken in the medical use case. So in that case I am saying that critical region was 1%, but I am performing 2% badly. So in that case I cannot accept that model. So I hope you are getting what is critical region. Okay, then coming to false positive. So here, even if false positive is more, that is fine. Okay, I have to pay some cost, but it is fine because it is not affecting me negatively, though my financially I have to pay some more. So I can say false positive is like, you don't have disease, but I am predicting you have disease. So the cost or the difficulties that will be faced is more, but there is no negative impact. So that is what our type 2 error, false positive. So we need to make sure that our model's critical region or false negative is less than the critical region. Okay, so if we are performing badly but it is less than critical region, we are good. Okay, our model is fine. So that was about this true positive, false positive and all. Now based on this, we have formulas called accuracy, sensitivity, specificity, recall, precision. So all these things will be based on only TP, FP, FN and TN. So this is a very useful concept. So if you didn't get it, pause it, go back from the starting and then try to understand it again. If you are facing any conceptual issues, please write down in the comment section, but this is one of the most important concept. Okay, next we have standard scalar. So as we have studied our first topic, which was variance, so the standard scalar is one of the technique to reduce the variance. Okay, so what happens here is, we'll say a simple example, not a complex one. So suppose we have, why is this not working? Okay, we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 20, 23, 27. Okay, okay, this is one of our example. So in this, if you say the distance between them is 2, 2, 2, 2 and then 7 and then 2, 2, 2. Okay, so there is some distance between each data points. Okay, now coming to one more example, say 1000, or let me write again different example. Let me say I have 1, then 3000, then 5k, k means 1000, 7k, 11k, 20k, 23k. Okay, so here you can see if the distance between them is 3k, distance between them is 2k, 2k, here 4k. So if you see in the first example, the distance was very less, the distance between them is very less, and in the second case the distance is very high. Okay, so our normalization thing is nothing but we need to reduce the scale, okay, of the data set, so that it will be easy for what we can say, for model, for creating of model. Okay, so this was one example, and the other example that I can say is, suppose you have 2 columns, say percentage, okay, and then CGPA, and in this case, so I am taking a different example. Okay, let me select this. Okay, so let's say we are talking about our class where our let's say classes is one column. Okay, then gender is another column, then we have something called marks. Okay, these are our three columns. There is one more column, output column. Let's not worry about this. Okay, so suppose class 1 3 students are there, class 2 2 students are there. Here we have male, female, or we can say male is like 0, female is 1, then 0, then 1 1. Okay, then marks is like total marks. So here we can say it is suppose 392, 492, 300, 500, and okay, 450. So you see, class 1 classes is on different scale. Okay, gender is on a different scale, and total marks is like completely on a different dimension. Okay, dimension, of course, class is one dimension, gender is one dimension, total marks is different dimension. But if you can see, the difference between classes is in terms of a single digit. Okay, and difference between gender is also a single digit, but coming to the difference between total marks, it is very high. So we can still predict, no issues, but it is better. Okay, it is recommended to have normalization, because if we don't do normalization, again there will be too many side effects. Okay, we can come to a wrong conclusion. Definitely we'll come to a conclusion, but it might be a wrong. Okay, so what we try to do is, we say, okay, total marks, I'll divide everything by 100 for suppose. This is just an example which we will not use in real time. But now if I try to what we can say, divide total marks by 100, so what will become, 392 will become 3.92, and 492 will become 4.92, 300 will become 3, 500 will become 5, 450 will become 4.5. So previously the differences was in hundreds. Now if you see, now the difference is 1. So here is like 1.92, here it is 2. So you can see that difference scale is reduced. So that is something that we call it as normalization. So if there are like 100 columns like this which we want to do, so it is not possible in real time. So in that case we have a formula. Okay, so that we can say, you can find it under standard scalar dot fit transform. Okay, so for this, if you passed your list of columns, or you can say x, it will normalize it for you. Okay, so that's how standard scalar works for the normalization. Let's move on to our next topic, which is our correlation. So this is one of the important technique we used in feature filtering or reduction. So what is feature? Let's suppose previously you have seen class, marks, gender, so that was 3 features. Like that, for suppose we have 200 features and one output. So, okay, this is good, but we want to see whether the column 35th, whether it is actually needed for my prediction, or it is simply a redundant kind of data. Okay, so that I need to make sure. If it is not useful, then what is the use of considering it for predicting, right? So that's how we come across this measurement called correlation. So what correlation says is, let me tell you. Okay, so correlation, we can find it using different mechanisms. So one of the mechanism that I am telling you is Pearson correlation. Okay, so we have like different methods and different ways of getting this, but let's talk about one, so that when you come across something else, you can say that, okay, what is a correlation, and what is correlation, and what features I need to maintain in my dataset, what features I need to remove. Okay, so here my Pearson correlation ranges from -1 to +1. Okay, so if you are familiar with the line equation and graph, that is fine. Otherwise our next slide will be on that only. For suppose I am considering, so correlation is founded between 2 features at a time. Okay, so correlation means how okay, so let's understand it in a simple English term. So correlation is nothing but how related one term is with respect to another term. Okay, or we can say how related one column is with respect to other column. Okay, so let's say here my column A is there, here my column B is there. So if my graph is increasing like this, okay, so if you don't know how this graph is coming, let me tell you. Okay, so this line or scatter plot, anything is made out of points, right? So if say this is our x part, this is our y part. So if I want to say there is a data set in which we have A, and we have B. Okay, so this value is 1 and this value is 1.5. So I will see that A value is 1 here and 1.5 here. Okay, so this will be my 1 point. Similarly other points like this I will plot, and finally if I see the trend in those points, I can say as the A is increasing, right, or as the B value is increasing, A value is also increasing. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so here I can say that A and B are directly proportional. Okay, or I can say positively correlated. Okay, positively correlated. So here what I am saying is, if A is increasing, B is also increasing. So if A is the trend of A is similar to that of B, I can say that, right? So if in this case A, and if I suppose in my data set I am using both A and B to find the output. Okay, so how this is helping? So even A showing similar trend, B is also showing similar trend. So I can say even if I remove B, I can say when A is increasing, my output is getting affected, because A is increasing, B is increasing, and my output is also getting affected. So here, okay, let's see what is positively correlated, what is negatively correlated. Then we'll see what features should we remove and what not. Okay, so let's say when this is increasing, I can say it is positively correlated. Okay, now let me remove that table. Okay, now we'll see what is negatively correlated. Let's say there is a column A and there is a column B. Okay, and when the curve is like this. Okay, so here what I can say is, when the B is increasing, A is decreasing. Okay, so there is again I can say that A is inversely proportional to B, or here I can say that it is negatively correlated. So negative or positive? Positive means direct proportional, negative means inverse proportional, but overall I can say that there is a relation between these two columns. But if suppose there is a column A and there is a column B, and the graph is like somewhat this. Okay, so here I cannot say any specific, okay, like this. Okay, this will not be a graph, but I get I hope you are getting the intention. So when there is no relation between A and B, I can say okay, no relation means no correlation. Okay, so based on values, so this is like based on graph we said whether it is a positive correlated or it is negative correlated or it is no correlated. So based on value, that is -1 to +1, right? So based on this, how we can say, let's say when our data is purely inversely proportional, okay, perfectly inversely proportional, so in that case it will be -1, that is inverse 1 by x. Okay, but if it is positively correlated, or we can say it is directly proportional, then it is +1. So here I can say this is +1 and this is -1, and this, since there is no relation, it is 0. So I hope now based on this you can identify the range. So the more close we are to the 0, the less relation we have. The more close we are to +1, we can say the more positively related our attributes are, and the more close we are to the -1, we can say the more inverse proportional relation we are having. So let's you can pause and try to answer what is the relation when we have something called 0.79. So if this is my Pearson correlation, what is the interpretation that you are seeing? Okay, so since 0.79 is close to +1, I can say that it is positively correlated but not purely correlated. Okay, so this is how we find what is the correlation. Now okay, we know the concept. Now what to do? Okay, so for that we'll take one more slide. Okay, so let's understand how we can use the Pearson to filter out the columns. Okay, so here I can say that it is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D, and this is my output, not Y bar, but this is my Y, that is output. Okay, so if I want to like this 5 I can use. So it is suggested when you have only small set of columns, like only 4 you are having for the feature, so you go for all the 4. But if you are having 200 or 300, in that case you should think about, should I remove any of the attributes or not. Okay, so let's see here. So suppose there is a correlation between A and B. Okay, let's suppose A and B correlation is +1. So in that case I can say that if A is increasing, there is an effect of +1, but since okay, so the effect on Y we will see. Okay, suppose the correlation between A and B is +1, that is they have a relation, or we can say approximately 0. Okay, now we see that A is also has relation between Y and B also has relation with Y. So here we can say A also has relation with Y, B also has relation with Y, and A and B both have a relation with each other. Okay, so you are understanding, if A is equal to B, B is equal to C, then A is equal to C as well. Okay, so here A and B have relation, A and Y have relation, B and Y also have relation. So here I can remove B and I can make use of A is equal to C equation, and I am removing unnecessary what I can say attribute, or B I can say. So in this case where A and B have +1 and A also has a relation with, like positive relation, and B also have positive relation, so in that case I can remove one of the attribute. Okay, I can remove B, or I can remove A, or I can create a new column saying which is generated from A and B. For suppose example is A is my age, B is my experience, so A plus B is my current experience. So I can add A and B and say A plus B is my current experience. So that's how I am reducing the number of columns. So this I can do when I can see that A and B have positive, I mean not positive, but A and B have a relation, and A and Y and B and Y all are having same relation. Then why we are doing this is because there is nothing much that B is contributing to Y when we have the same effect shown by A on Y. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But if suppose A and C, or let's suppose C and D have a good relation, let's suppose approximately +1. Okay, now C is related to Y. Let's suppose C is related to Y. Yes, but I mean C is related to Y. Yes, but is D related to Y? No. So what I can say here is there is some other information which D is giving to Y. Okay, so if D is like showing the direct relation and C is also direct relation, then I can say one of them is fine, as we have seen in the previous case. But in this case where I am seeing C and D have relation, that is fine, but I cannot remove either C or either D, because the relation between C and Y is different and the relation between D and Y is different. Okay, so in this case I cannot remove it. So I hope what is Pearson correlation and what you can do it with the Pearson here. I hope you get it right. So you need to make sure, so the conclusion is you need to make sure the correlation between the features, okay, between the features, if it is more, okay, if it is more, or I can say plus, let me write more, then you can try to remove it. Okay, so between the features the relation should not be more, but between feature and output it should be opposite. Okay, so between feature and output the relation should be less. Okay, so in that case I can say that each feature will contribute in predicting the output. I'll repeat this last statement because it was an important statement. Between the features, if the correlation is more, you can try to remove some of them, but if the relation between the feature and the output is less, then you should try to keep it. Okay, you should make sure that there is not much relation between the feature and output. Okay, so that's how you make sure that you remove some of them. Okay, your focus is only one thing, that within the features, okay, within the X columns there should be not be much correlation among themselves, because then they are providing the same amount of information to output, then that is of no use. Okay, I hope that is clear. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the line equation, coefficient and intercept. Okay, so based on this like we can easily cover the linear regression and logistic regressions and all. So this concept was common to all the algorithms, that's why I am taking it separately. So suppose this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, there is nothing to suppose, it is actually x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so I am drawing something like this line. Okay, this is my 0. So here what I can say, this line, okay, this is nothing but my slope, and slope is nothing but dy by dx, and again dy by dx is nothing but tan theta. Okay, so why I'm saying is this, because this line equation is nothing but y equal to, what is the slope? Tan theta. This we represent as m. So this is m x plus c is nothing but this intercept. Okay, if the line is passing from 0, then our c become 0. So I hope this line makes sense. Okay, so this m is slope. So here I had only one x, so I am writing x. But if I am suppose there is one more this line called z, and like 3 dimension, I can show you example, remaining you can understand. In that case, what I can do is y is equal to m1x, that is slope of line along the x-axis, or I can say along this attribute, plus slope of the line along this attribute, plus c. The intercept will be same only. Okay, so similarly, if there is more dimension, you can write y is equal to, our output label is equal to m1 x1. So here z, let's say this is some other dimension, so I am calling it as x2. Similarly, if you have n number of other dimensions, you can write m3 x3. Similarly, n dimensions means mn xn, but you will have a common intercept called c, because this is going through my y. So what is the point of telling this is, this m is okay. In generalized form, what I can write is y is equal to list of m, which I represent with capital M, and list of x dimensions, or I can say x, z, and all the other dimension in the form of capital X, plus small c is my the intercept. So here this m is nothing but my coefficient. So this m1, m2, m3, all these are my coefficients along their respective axis, and c is my intercept. So this concept we are going to make use in under linear and logistics, so that's why I told this. And let's go to our final topic, which is nothing but p-value for feature selection. So okay, Pearson we have already discussed. Now let's talk about p-value. So what I can say is, if you know about the distribution, well and good. Otherwise, in my statistics part 1, I have taken a standard normalization distribution where I have shown how we get the z value from the z table. So that standard normal distribution is focused on the sample thing. Okay, but here p-value is focused on the population. So if you don't know about sample and population, that's fine. My only thing here is just to go and watch statistics part 1 to understand how we get the z values, how we try to solve the estimator problems and all. Okay, then it will be easily understandable. So as we have seen moments back, how how we find the correlation, and based on what values and within whom what happens, then we based on the values, how we filter the columns and all we have discussed. Similarly, we have p-value. Okay, so we'll first try to understand what is the range of p-value. Okay, and how we can find out how the correlation is between the features based on this range. Okay, that will be our final concept. So what is p-value? So p-value is nothing but it is an inversely proportional to how much a column contributes to the prediction. Okay, so let me write here, its range is, okay, this is fine, let me write here 0 to 1. Okay, that's it, no negative thing, nothing. Now what is p-value? It is like the contribution done by x. X is nothing but any feature column for prediction. Okay, no, it is not the contribution, it is the like 1 by contribution, that is inversely proportional. Okay, so it is I can write here inversely proportional to how much a property or attribute is contributing to the prediction. So the less the p-value is, the more beneficial it is. The less value of p-value means the more is the contribution. So the more is this denominator, the the more is the denominator, the less is the p-value. Okay, so the more is the contribution, the less is the p-value, the more beneficial it is. Okay, so if you say we are writing 1 by contribution, means if it is 0 means it is completely contributing to y, and if it is 1 means it is not at all contributing at all. So here is nothing like correlation, but here we simply find how much contribution is done by a column to the output. So here we can say we have something called p significance, or we have some confidence intervals. So we have a value called 0.05, which is known as statistically significant value. Okay, let me take this ink. Okay, so here we simply says that if a p-value is less than or equal to 0.05, then we should consider it that it is contributing a good amount to the prediction. But if it is greater than 0, not equal to, greater than 0.05, then we can simply remove it. So here what we are saying is, we are with the 95% of confidence, I am saying that the column that I have chosen is contributing to my output variable. So if the p-value is less than 0.05, so p-val is less than less than or equal to 0.05, I am keeping that column in my data set. But if it is greater than, then I am removing it, because the contribution done by that column which is having a p-value greater than 0.05, I am having no use with that column, but it is simply acting as I can say unnecessary data for me, which if we have more unnecessary data, the more we are fluctuated from our actual decision. So we try to filter out all the unnecessary kind of data. Okay, so that was our final concepts. Any issues regarding these concepts, please write down in the comment section. If you like this explanation, please subscribe, support and share. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you.